All right, so this session, it's me. So my name is Reza. I'm a developer advocate at Tigera. This session is all about our new observability features in Calico Open Source, version 3.30, which is an upcoming release. You can technically run it right now. It's in our master branch currently. The observability dashboard is called Whisker. Again, we're going with the same theme as the Calico Cat. So we're gonna have three sort of like short things, but the demo part is the one that is like a huge chunk of this session. And it's gonna be, again, hands-on. There's gonna be a QR code. You guys all can jump in, just scan it, do it on your own, on your mobile camera, whatever, that can run a modern browser. Now, we're going to start with why network observability is important, and then we're going to talk about Calico Whisker, how it ties to the observability, and the demo. So let's just start. Kubernetes is dynamic. So to be fair, Kubernetes is a little bit chaos. If it was like 2000 or something, and I would have told you that I'm gonna run a server that you don't know where, with God knows what IP, in some other place, and the only thing that I will give you is a tag, you would be like, this lad is mad. But that's literally what we are doing with Kubernetes. Now, that being said, it doesn't need to be that difficult. There are ways that we can help figure out what is actually where, which again goes to observability. Now, the second thing is from the problems that we might have with the whole dynamic nature of Kubernetes and Kubernetes is network traffic is central to everything. So networking might not be the brain of Kubernetes, but it's definitely the heart. Like all your workloads, internet, whatever you want to fetch, whatever you want to see, it sort of creates some sort of communication, a socket, some sort of thing that tries to either do a DNS query, socket, TCP, UDP, ingress, a lot of things that Peter said, these sort of things. And the bird's eye view. So this is something that I sort of learned in England. So security depends on visibility, what's communicating. So it's sort of important to know what is trying to communicate, what is being blocked. And it's similar to the bird's eye view in your car. So most people who are experienced drivers with sort of pride and like, I can parallel park without any cameras. I just don't look at anything. I'm not an experienced driver. I can barely walk. But if you give me a bird's eye view, I can do a pretty decent sort of like parking. So that would be a whole thing of observability. And the last one is zero trust. So observability is the foundation for sort of zero trust. Because in order to implement the least privilege, you at least need to know who's actually has some privileges so you can go take it from them. It can work in other scenarios, but please just use it for networking. Now, that being said, most teams that we talk to, again, we have enterprise solutions and we have a lot of customers. So those customers usually come to us with like, before we start to like engage with them, and their problems are, oh, it is really difficult to go through all the logs and figure out what is going on. So for instance, you can have multiple pods, multiple deployment across like different clouds, different providers, those sort of things. A lot of nodes, networks, BGP in there somewhere. And while checking logs for like one node or a tutorial is like a fun thing to do, if you try to do it in like a huge sort of environment, it's a bit of a nightmare. Imagine just going through like thousands of nodes and figuring out, oh, did that pod was in this node and did something here, or should I go to the next node and the next node and the next node? Now, the other thing is incorrect policies can break your cluster pretty easy because you sort of implement a policy that you think should work, but again, you don't have the whole sort of bird's eye view to know, oh, is this pod is actually talking to that server? Sort of like writing policies without any insights into the network flows can have like devastating consequences. Usually, you forget a flow and everything breaks. For instance, nobody can come into your workloads or see your web pages, those sort of things. But again, you have the cached version, so you're sort of like, all right, this is a Friday. I did the policy. Everything is working on my computer, so bye. So I come on Monday and figure out there's like thousands of tickets. Oh, people cannot like log into their whatever service. Now, compliance and audits. In most environments, like enterprise environments, there are compliances that you have to meet. For instance, you need to have logs around things. What was happening? Because if somebody tries to come back and say, all right, we need like logs for this portion because some sort of shady thing happened or somebody accessed your computers or workloads and tried to escalate their privilege or those sort of things, you need to have some sort of visibility or logs around that. The other thing is figuring out why a connection is denied. So did the connection drop? So figuring out if a connection is denied is, I think, communication 101. Sort of like you need to know if I wrote a policy, was it the cause of that connection dropping, or is it something wrong with the application? This is sort of like a tug of war between like most developers and network engineers. They say, oh, your application is broken. The other one goes like, no, your network is broken. And just they go on and on and on. So it would be great to have some sort of thing to say, all right, whatever is happening, it's this policy, or whatever is happening is this part of your application. So what if you could see real-time network flows? This is literally what you can do with Calico Whisker. You can also filter through those flow logs. You can say which ones you like to see in details, those sort of things. Basically, you get insights into why a traffic is allowed or denied. Excuse me. And those sort of things. Now, I talked about filtering, but understanding why a traffic is allowed or denied, it's sort of unique. I haven't seen it a lot of places. Now, you could, I've seen a lot of solutions that tell you this packet was dropped, but they don't give you a chain of policies that was like applied sort of to that pod, and at some point it was the like conclusion. It's like the whole chain of what is happening. That was something cool that I saw in like Calico Enterprise, and I was trying to get it into open source, which I succeeded. The other thing is you can also use something called stage policies. So stage network policy allow you to observe a traffic without enforcing any sort of condition on it. So before anything is happening, you can write a policy. That policy can tell you if something is hitting it, if there's traffic flowing with that policy. If that policy applies to those flows that you want it to sort of enforce some sort of action to it. And then when everything is okay, you can go, all right, this stage policy should be a network policy or a network security policy, those sort of things. And you can also use the Calico flows to collaborate across teams. So you can share your flows with your peers, developers, other people, and say, all right, your application requires both port 80 and 443 or those sort of things. Like, and I say it because I can see these flow logs in the environment, these sort of things. Now, that being said, Calico Whisker. So network observability is not something new. Everybody knows. And we didn't invented it. It's an old sort of thing, but it's been around for like some time. I think the first iteration was IPFix. It's like a RFC somewhere on the internet. The IPFix would give you these sort of information. You would get timestamp, network flows, directions, protocols, port numbers, packets, bytes, these sort of things, like very sort of traditional information about what is a packet doing. Now with Calico, we are providing you with those, but we're adding some sort of Kubernetes sauce to it. So you would see what namespaces, what destinations, is it a pod, is it a deployment, like a service, those sort of things. You would also see things like labels that would help you to write your own policies. So basically you would click on a flow, figure out what is the destination namespace, what is the source namespace. You write your policy and you slap a couple of labels in the pod selector and done. You have your policies. It would also tell you what are the actions that are happening to a policy. Is the policy is being dropped? Is the policy is being accepted? Those sort of things. You would also get reporter. So reporter means, is it the pod that sees this packet or is it the node that sees that packet? These sort of thing. Sort of like source and destination. It tells you this packet is originated from the source, but I didn't saw it in the destination. Sort of makes you able to figure out how to write your policy or what is your next troubleshooting step. Now, it also shows you the tiers. So tiers been in Calico for a while, but Kubernetes sort of didn't put in it. Most CNIs don't have tiers. Tiers are just a fancy word for folders. Instead of just having one like folder that all the policies are in there, you can have different folders, different tiers, and add policies to it. Now, Kubernetes is also catching up to this, and admin network policy is actually sort of like a tier. It's a dedicated folder for your admin network policies to be separated from the default policies that we usually write, the network policy in Kubernetes. So we have unlimited tiers. You can see all the tiers that are associated with the traffic if it's flowing in your cluster in Calico OS Whisker. And you also see the chain of policies that are applicable to any traffic that are flowing in your cluster. So basically, it will give you a drill down of here are all the policies that this packet was evaluated against in its journey. That being said, we actually take this even further with the Calico Enterprise and Calico Cloud. It gives you process ID, process name, process arguments, NAT outgoing ports, original source IP, TCP stats, host endpoint support, host name, DNS, layer 7, and archiving. All the logs will be archived for you in Calico Enterprise and Cloud. So it's sort of like every step, we add a lot more to it. All right, so there is a Calico Cloud free tier, as Peter said. It's coming. And you can basically, for free, have most of the features that Calico Enterprise offers for free. That would be a great thing to actually test. So this is Calico Whisker and its glory. It gives you a way to filter, allows you to see all the flows. You can click on them. We get to it. And it shows you network level observability, source and destination, as you can see, protocol and port numbers, layer 4, policy actions, and policy details. So policy actions is my flow is being allowed or denied, those sort of things. Policy details, all the policies that were evaluated. And we support virtual machines. If you're running a virtual machine in your Kubernetes environment, KubeVirt, NICVirt, other sort of virts, solutions, they're all supported. Again, those are all trying to run a VM as a pod, so the representation is a pod, and it would connect to the CNI, which is Calico, and everything works magically. All right. For some reason, I have slide content there. All right. I guess we go with the flow. So how Whisker does this? To generate flows, there's Felix, the brain of Calico. Basically, it sees everything in your cluster nodes. Each node runs a version, an instance of Felix in the Calico node pod. And when you run Whisker, it tells Felix to tell me what is going on in my cluster. So if a connection is started, it goes to contract, look at the sockets. If you're running IP tables, if you're running eBPF, it puts eBPF programs to figure out, all right, what is happening? What are the packets that are going? NF tables, it look at the NF logs, those sort of things. Anyway, so it figures out a way to say, all right, this pod, virtual machine, whatever, is trying to talk to either your network card, another pod, these sort of things. Now, in order to do that, it needs a way to communicate that information with Whisker or any other client. So that is where Goldmain comes in. Now, you might be thinking that you got Calico, you got Whisker. Goldmain doesn't follow the same pattern. Well, it does if you play Magic the Gathering, but that is something, I guess, nobody. All right, it's only me, I guess. Anyway. So this new component, Goldmain, it implements a secure channel with MTLS. So anybody who wants to talk with Goldmain requires to have requires to present certifications that are signed by the CA that Goldmain has its certifications signed with. Now, by default, it's the Tigera operator, but you can change that. Description is in our docs, docs.tigera.io. In the operations at the bottom, it says how to change MTLS. Anyway, so when you have your security certification sorted, you can talk to Goldmain. Now, Felix sends its information to Goldmain, and Goldmain aggregates it. So instead of like seeing a huge chunk of logs, you just see these deployments, which is sort of like an aggregated pattern. For instance, demo app dash star, which means all the pods that are from that deployment are trying to talk with, for instance, this private endpoint or this public endpoint on this port on this protocol. And there are other gRCP channels that clients can use to talk to Goldmain, and they can pull information from Goldmain. So basically, Whisker backend, which is a Go program, talks to Goldmain and fetches those informations from Goldmain cache, and it shows you via the UI. This is basically the architecture. Hopefully I got it right because the engineer who was telling me was in a rush. He needed to be somewhere. Anyway, now I did a little bit of foreshadowing there, but next on CalicoCon, there's going to be a Goldmain session, and I'm going to walk you through all the certificates, how you issue it, where to find it, how to connect to the gRCP channels, how to write a client, those sort of things. It's not going to be like hands-on writing codes because I'm not the best person to write codes, but it would be something like, here is a client that can talk gRPC. Let's use it to communicate with Goldmain. This is the QR code I was talking about. So if you scan the QR code, there are a couple of workshops there. The ones that we are interested in is called Whisker at the moment. I think it should be the first one. For some reason, it wants to delete it. All right, play. Any question while this tries to load? Rock, paper, scissors?
You go first.
All right.
Do you need full just the admin access for Whisker, or is also working namespace scope? Like we have some teams that only have access to certain namespaces, but not whole cluster.
So the question is, do you need full access in order to see the flows or run the Whisker thingy?
Yeah, so we have certain teams that only have access to certain namespaces.
Okay.
So they cannot see all the cluster-wide resources.
Okay.
So does it still work if you only have like a namespace, access to certain namespaces?
So Whisker in the backend works. It collects all the information. Now, if you want to give somebody limited access, well, you could do it. So at the moment, Whisker gives you all the information, but it's within get parameters. So you could create some sort of like ingress gateway in front of it and say, these people can only open this URL, which would be their flows filter. What was the other question?
How long does the data persist for? And is there offloading to, a low or elastic or something?
All right. So I believe it's either 24 or 48 hours. It's not offloading anywhere. It's stored in the RAM. You could take it out. We have a session on how to do it if you're really keen to do it. But there is a better way, which would be the Calico free tier. Basically, that would be a lot more storage and easier. So it depends on you. But it's either 24 or 48. I'm not 100% sure. You know what? This is the best question to ask from the engineering.
Yeah, it's 24 in the cluster, it's all in memory, and then when you connect the Calico Cloud Feature, the flow logs are ingested up into Elasticsearch.
Yep.
And they're stored for a day there as well.
So if my node fails, I won't be able to see why because those logs will be in memory of it.
Correct.
There was a question there.
Yeah, just would it, I mean, would it be feasible to just enable, disable it, Whisker, like for some namespace, for example, so you can run a debug for troubleshooting?
So from the code is right now online. You can check it out. I do believe it's for your whole cluster when you run the observability. That being said, you can enable it for, I don't know, 10 minutes, figure out what is going on, and turn it off. That is possible. Oh, so the question was, could you please repeat the question?
Basically, can you enable, like, do you have to run it all the time, or can you enable it just to run as a debug tool?
All right. So the question was, is it possible to run it as a debug tool for troubleshooting just for a certain amount of time, or it needs to be running continuously? All right. So this is Whisker in its glory. Hopefully you guys have access to the thing as well. So the workshop has a lot of stuff in it. It tells you why, when, where, what's going on, what is Whisker, how to figure out what version of Calico you're running. Again, you do need to be on Calico 3.30 or higher. So if we look at the moment, this might be a little bit. So it is Calico 3.30. So you need to be on Calico 3.30 or higher, and then you can enable Whisker. Now, why would you enable it, or why would you use it? So a common thing that I've seen with a lot of people is, for instance, they run a default deny, which is a great thing. We do recommend you to run a default deny policy in your cluster. But sometimes when people do that, they don't take into account that example default denies are usually created to like work in all environments, but it doesn't take account that you might have workloads, because we think, well, you would write those policies for yourself. It's not something that is general, it's unique to you. So when you run a default deny policy, what happens is you sort of secure your cluster, but in the process, you break your workloads. So if you look, I do have an application, and that application was able to talk to everything. Now it cannot talk to anything, which is not correct, because the policy that I wrote, it's in the workshop. If this is tiny, please read it from the workshop. But the policy that I applied sort of denies all the ingress, denies all the egress, unless there's a pod that is labeled kubedns, which is required, sort of like we all run DNS. Again, Kubernetes, we have DNS. That's a chaos too. So we're just letting our DNS pods to be able to talk to other DNS servers on port 53 UDP. And we're letting all the local pods to talk to our core DNS on port 53. That's basically what we are doing here. Now, when you do that, in the process, I sort of killed my demo app. And that is something that Whisker will show you. So here, I have a flow that says, this was denied, and this is a service load balancer. So my demo app is now loading for my customers, because when I implemented the security policy, default deny, I didn't take into account that I have a workload, and that workload has a service, and that service serves a lot of customers. So basically, it tells you all right, I have to add a note here. This is gonna get better. We're just, again, this is a pre-release thing. This is gonna get better. You don't need to learn how to read JSON. That is a promise. But what it tells you is, in the chain of things that were enforced, in this namespace, in this tier, what has happened? So default deny. And what happened is the app, so the policy is a global network policy. And if you look closer here, that is a default deny here. So global network policy, that is called deny app something. So deny app policy. And again, it's in the tier default, and the action is something, and the something, like what happened, and it gives you all the information that you would need to figure out what is happening to this flow and why it's dropping. So one thing is to go through all these logs. If you fancy that, that's a good thing to do. The other one is you can just basically come here. These are all your policies. Click on the one that you're looking for. It will sort it for you. And these are like right now trying to do some sort of, what's it called? Traffic that hits that policy. And then you can go, all right, this is denied. Let's go figure out. The other way is you can clear the selection. Clear the selection and just come to denied flows. It will give you all the denies. You will figure out, all right, these are dropped. Let's go figure out what's happening. Now that being said, that's a lot like me talking about why it's happening. This is the deny that you would see. And next, we'll talk about why you should use stage network policies. All right. So first of all, let's delete the policy that I created. All right. Now, the policy that I created had a type ingress. Again, with Kubernetes, there are no policies, and everything is permitted. The minute that you add a policy, this behavior changes. Whatever that your policy is selecting, even if it's a partial match, those flows that match that policy will have an implicit deny at the end. So that's what was happening. While I didn't specify what, because I wrote ingress with a broad selector, it would select all the things that were happening and said, all right, you're not enforcing any sort of action here, so I'm assuming you want to drop all of them. Now, what you could do is, instead of writing an actual policy, you can create a stage network policy. With the stage network policy, all you need to do is prefix staged for your global network policy or Calico network policy, whichever you want. You do the same sort of policy that you write. Nothing is changed. The only thing is the prefix. When you do that, if you come to Whisker, you could, again, figure out what was the thing that you wrote. And if you click on, for instance, this one, it would tell you, all right, this one, it would tell you this is a stage network policy. And you would see it's not being denied. Nothing is happening to it. It just flags it for you. All right, here are the flows that are matching that policy that I wrote. And here are the detail. For instance, I could be more sort of restrict with my policy and say, all right, I don't want all the pods. I just need these ones with this label. Or I don't need like every port, I just need these ports. So I can basically go and figure out what my staged global network policy is trying to hit or what is hitting it, and then try to go, all right, these are the flows that I want to write a policy for. These are the ones that I don't want to. Now, after you've done that, oh, there's also a lot of photos and things. I've been doing a lot of things. Oh, there's a thing. All right. Filters. All right. Oh, one more thing. I forgot. So while you have the stage info policy, again, nothing is enforced. My application is working. It's doing its thing. Now, after you figure out what is needed, you could write your policy. So this was the policy that was missing. And if you want to find how did I write it, it's like here, this is the label, this is the port, all the information. I just took this, wrote it in a policy format, basically copy pasting things. After that, again, don't forget the stage info policy. It doesn't do anything. You create your global network policy. It's a little bit difficult for me to see the other side. So basically, I export the stage info policy, take the stage out. So basically, I export the stage info policy, do a set, because I just want to, be cool, not using an editor. So do a set, take the stage out, and after that, I apply the YAML file. And this time, you can see my workload can talk to core DNS, and my workload can reach the Kubernetes API server. But it cannot talk to the internet, so it cannot fetch anything outside my cluster domain. And if I refresh, everything works. If you come back here to Whisker, this time I will show you, all right, the thing that is being denied with the policy is actually my workload trying to access something. Where is it? So it's trying to call 6443. The other one, port 6443. It's not a phone number. And again, it's trying to access internet on port 80. So this is the first line in my web application. Basically, it tells me, all right, these are the things that I'm blocking. These are the things that are happening. Again, saying, oh, there's also a conclusion. It tells you, all right, here are the things. At the end, there is something. So if you complete the workshop, please complete this. Help us make Calico even better. It's a survey. You can choose to be anonymous or not. It basically asks you, all right, if you like to have any sort of tutorial, any sort of material, what would be the best thing to create for you? And there are a lot of other resources that you can use to sort of figure out other sort of things about Calico, tutorials and everything. Any questions? Oh, and there is a thing at the end. Where is it? Yeah, this one. So how you feel about the track? Go ahead.
So the stage policies, when we watch at them in Whisker, and normally the stage policy would be denying traffic, is it being shown as allowed or is it being shown as denied?
So the question is how stage network policy are showed in Whisker, and what is the actual verdict if you write in a stage network policy, like what happens? Yeah. So when you write in a stage network policy, it doesn't do anything in terms of that traffic or the overall traffic of your cluster. So basically, you just have a policy It doesn't do anything. It permits, it allows everything, so nothing changes, right? The only thing is you see it in Whisker as allowed, and you can see, all right, this allowed, which is the same in like before, as before, is a staged network policy. Now, if you have other sort of policies that would deny, it will show you in that JSON. Again, you don't need to read JSON, but it will show you there, all right, here are the policies that hit. It also hit your staged network policy, but at the end, it was denied because of this other policy that denies things. Does that make sense?
I mean, I'm just wondering what is the difference then to setting the action of a network policy to log?
To log?
Yeah.
It would be similar. The difference is if you have log, for instance, in IP tables, let's say you write a log. Now it would, so the question is, what's the difference between a staged network policy and a log policy? If, for instance, a log rule in IP tables. So in IP tables, if you create a log, when it hits that log, it would tell you, right? But you won't see what is happening after it. So you sort of need to be a little bit tricky with it, sort of add the log and then go like, all right, I know when I hit this log, everything is denied, right? But it was
I could add a log in every rule. I could add a log in every rule in the network policy.
that would
First log and then deny.
100%, that would be a lot of performance hit, but it is possible. All right, with a stage policy, that performance isn't, like that performance hit isn't there. And the other thing is, with the rule, with the log rule, whatever happens after it, you don't see it. With a stage network policy, you see all the chain. Even if the drop happens after it, you see the drop. Does it make sense? Like with IP table log, you sort of know, all right, when it hits this, it drops. When it hits this, it drops. Something else might happen in between. You just don't know it. You sort of trust yourself. That would be the difference.
What was the reasoning behind making it a new CRD and not basically adding a flag to the existing network policy? It would be more convenient to be able to add a label or an annotation just stating this now I like to be staged, and later on I just switch it on again or stuff like that. Because if I see your example, I have to basically have the stage network policy, making a real one out of it, and I additionally have to remove the staged one because it's still there.
All right. So the question is,
Probably one for me, Reza.
yeah, but wait, I have a thing for it. So the question is, why why have a different CRD? Why not have an annotation that will provide the stage network policy capabilities? That would be way better instead of like having a different CRD. So you have to create a different sort of policy to do that. Now, it's a great question. There is another session at the end. Ask the engineers. That is one for them. So just write it down. Ask them. That dude is there. Any other questions?
Can you set up some type of alerting for your denied flows? If you suddenly get a whole lot of denied flows for a certain policy you don't expect or something like that?
So the question is it possible to add some sort of alerting to whatever happens in Whisker, right? At the moment, Whisker doesn't provide it for you. Again, if you're very keen to have that capability, that is provided in Calico Cloud and Calico Enterprise, or you could watch the like last session, second to the last session, just create it for your own self with like Goldman and like your integration with whatever alerting you use, those things. Basically, you either pay us to do it for you or you take your own time and do it for yourself. One of these two. Go ahead.
So maybe a follow-up question on that. Does Goldmain export some metrics, some Prometheus metrics?
Not right now, but that is been that's in the process of making. The thing that I can tell you it does right now, it provides you with gRPC channels that give you this whole thing that Whisker was showing you. So you can write whatever you want. You just need to have a gRPC client, but that is foreshadowing. Any
Is Whisker eventually replacing Tigera Manager with the Kibana dashboard? There you can also see the flow.
That is a great question. Last session, the engineers, those guys know. I know.
That's a product question.
Okay.
That's a product.
So the question was: is Whisker gonna replace Calico Tigera Manager, which is the enterprise and Calico Cloud thingy? I don't know, but at the end, engineers they might not know it. Again, they said it's a product. Why don't you just come to the Slack channel? Just ask it, and I will go to the product managers and let you know. Honestly, I don't know. No other questions? All right.
Do you also see the Kubernetes network policies in Whisker or only the Calico network policies?
You do see Kubernetes network policies in Whisker as well. Yeah.
I just want to answer the previous question. It won't replace it. Some of the UI modules, functionality are shared, but there's so much more in the UI in enterprise that the manager will be there. And the cloud UI is still there. Some of the functionality is shared.
All right. So the last question. This just then, it's not going to replace Tigera Manager. Some of the functionalities are shared, but it's going to stay the same for Tigera Manager. No other questions? All right. I believe, what is the next session? So 2:40, we got like, so there's a coffee break, but it's, we're a little bit early. All right. I can do, just a second. So there are no more questions. Political, computers, any sort of thing.
Someone in the chat asks, how is this log collected in Whisker? Is there any agent pushing the log?
Sorry.
Someone in the chat asks, how is this log collected in Whisker? Is there any agent pushing the log?
How the log is connected to Whisker.
Is there an agent pushing the log?
To Whisker. Again, this same as the thing that I showed in the presentation. Felix push flows to Goldbane, and Whisker sort of collects them from Goldbane. Go ahead.
Follow up on that. So does it work also if you use, for example, AWS CNI, or do you have to use Calico CNI for networking?
I did try it. So on AWS, I was using Calico CNI, but write it down. It would be the great question for the engineers at the end, because the person who wrote most of the things is right now here to answer your question. So write that down, ask it at the end. That's a great question. Go ahead.
Did you do any performance testing?
Yes. And we do have numbers for it.
What?
Sorry?
Also for the engineers?
Yes. I'm a developer advocate, dude. So the question was, did we do any performance tests? And yes, I do know we have done it. I don't have the numbers or anything.
Come talk to us. We have some
Yeah.
here we can share. Just a bit of a performance.
Any other sort of questions? Go ahead.
So Whisker needs also licensing, or is it enterprise?
So question is, does Whisker need any sort of licensing? Whisker is completely free, both Whisker and Goldmane. The whole logs and everything that you saw is all free and open source. You can literally go to github.com/project Calico, go to the latest branch, download everything, see all the codes, everything in there. No licenses, nothing required. It's just everything open source. Go ahead.
Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on the layer 7 WAF capabilities? What does it entail?
All right. You're trying to catch me off guard. So the question is, can I talk about layer 7 WAF capabilities of Calico?
Yes.
So from what I know, in Calico Open Source, we provide an integration with Istio. That is a node agent thingy. It's a gRPC channel between Istio and Calico Open Source. You can write a policy in Calico Open Source, and when you write that, you add the HTTP headers, for instance, get paths, those sort of things. And every traffic that comes in, depending on the stuff that are happening, either gets allowed or denied. Now that is the open source thingy. In the enterprise and Calico Cloud, we have a different WAF, which is not Istio, and it's it's using another backend, and it's more sort of complete. And the Ingress, the Calico Ingress gateway that is coming, sort of gives you a lot of capabilities that could be helpful in order to say, all right, route these like these things here, there, those sort of things. That could also be helpful in terms of like layer 7 security or layer 7 routing. But that would be, again, for the engineers because they are writing it, right? Like they are creating it.
Okay.
Yeah, so the WAF in our commercial, so we have application layer policy based on some of the characteristics of the HTTP request. That's an open source and commercial. So that's called ALP, application layer policy. So it's not really a WAF, but it is policy at L7. And you can look at HTTP path, you can look at verbs and things like that. We do have a WAF then in our commercial offering. It's based on, it used to be based on ModSec. I know it's based on Karatza, your Golang implementation, and that's our commercial offering. And you can plug that in east-west, so in front of every deployment, in front of every service. And you can have different rules depending on, different namespaces and different services. And that's only available in the commercial offering.
Go ahead.
I guess probably related to the performance, but are you able to filter the traffic or rather what you're logging on the collection level?
Do you mean layer
Well, layer
2?
I
Layer 1 connection?
I think how to explain it to you. Well, basically, if you have different namespace, right? If you have a very noisy namespace,
Okay.
and then you know that you don't want to listen to it or to have a constant amount of logs logging coming from it, right?
Okay.
And you actually filtered it out.
Oh, so if you have a noisy neighbor and you don't want to have the logs from that
Yes.
specific noisy neighbor, would you be
Whatever you call it.
would you be able to filter through those? I do believe if you set the filter, it will not show you
On
that.
the Whisker, but if you don't want to have it on the
Do you-
collected by Goldman, right?
Oh, the collection happens by Felix, the brain of Calico. So that is the component that tells what is happening where.
Let's take this question
Yeah.
Most of your questions should go to the engineers.
Yep.